AltaVista, the highest view in contractor marketing.
If you're not listening to The Angle, you will surely fall behind.
Are you going to exist in your space, or are you going to dominate?
Trust the process.
Are you planning for today or adapting for the future?
This is the AltaVista Angle. All right, hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the AltaVista Angle, our podcast with AltaVista Strategic Partners. Again, my name is Aaron Hockel. I'm one of the hosts of this show. Back as always, we have managing partner Ray McLaughlin, and we are also excited to welcome Kent Vanderwood onto our episode today. Kent is our SEO team manager and resident SEO expert. Our agenda today is going to talk all about AI-driven search, how AI is impacting SEO, how brand ties into all of that, how your website's a tool, and how that's kind of a shifting landscape in the SEO AI universe. We've got a great agenda. Before we dive into it and get really rolling on this, Ray, do you want to lead us off with a quick economic update as always?
Yeah, certainly. Again, I'll start with I'm not an economist, as we always do, but we do see some things internally at AltaVista. Having 600 clients, we get a pretty good lens as to what's going on within the contractor economy, where we're seeing some strength, where we're seeing weaknesses. I think we've talked in the last 3 to 4 months about things had slowed down. I think that's still a general theme internally for us. I do see stabilization. We're still producing a strong amount of results for our clients. On the resi side, I think we're going to have to see what the spring looks like. Quite fair, the seasonality of the resi contractor is hard to gauge that in January 19th. And I know a lot of our clients wish we had a crystal ball there. We don't have that crystal ball, but we have seen stabilization. The commercial side stays a little bit more consistent than the resi side, and we have seen stabilization there. So all good. It's all about investment for me. It's what, for the commercial contractor, what happens to office in 2026 and 2027? Do they stay vacant? Do they stay 50% occupied? Or do we start putting some money into repurposing those buildings? Imagine if we started to repurpose office for our commercial clients, what that would do. So the tailwinds that I'm seeing right now are we're in a rate cutting cycle, and it looks as if that's going to continue. Whether it's correct or not, I don't know. We don't know if that's correct, but we've got a new Fed chair coming in, I believe in May. They will be cutting rates. Whoever is getting appointed by the president will be cutting rates, and I think that's really clear. And there's a phrase in economics and in the markets: don't fight the Fed. If the Fed is cutting rates, that should stimulate the economy. So that's one really big tailwind that we have today that we didn't have 3 months ago, and I am optimistic that that will help. And on the inflation side, we're seeing some moderation in inflation. The biggest risk that we have when we cut rates is that we overstimulate and inflation goes up. That's certainly still in the playbook potentially, but we're seeing trends in inflation that are showing inflation's coming down, and that should give the Fed a path to cut rates, maybe another 100 basis points. And again, rates go down by 1% on commercial loans. They go down on home loans. They go down on auto loans and maybe all floating rate debt. That's stimulative to the economy. So I'll reserve the right to modify this later, but I do see some positive signs and recovery here. Again, when the Fed raises rates, you can see recession 9 out of 10 times. So we just went through a Fed rate raise cycle. They're now in cutting mode, so they still have to land the plane. It's really difficult to do. Historically, it hasn't been done, but I think they've done a good job, and I think there's a higher probability than 10% that they land the plane here. So let's all cross our fingers and look for a really good 2026.
Cool. Yeah, awesome. Thanks for that as always, right? And if we are all looking forward to a good 2026 and kind of a strong 2026, I think AI will be a buzzword that we hear, whether that's in contractor marketing, whether that's in the broader economic cycle, the stock market. I'm sure there's headlines every day. AI for AltaVista, we're looking at it a number of different ways. The topic that we're really here to talk about with Kent today is really how AI and search engines are kind of in this meeting point, right? So, AI driven search, and what does that mean? And maybe that's a great talking point to start out with here, Kent, is if I say, hey, Kent, tell me what AI search means. And I want you to share that with our audience and, the customers and everybody listening. Tell us about it.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on the angle. I'm excited to be here. But yeah, really the rise in AI search has been really since November of 2022. But most importantly, really, I would say the biggest rise over the last 2 years or so. We've seen search evolve more than the last 10 years combined. A lot of that has to do with just the rise of different AI platforms such as ChatGPT and AI overviews in Google, and how that really affects, SEO and traditional search as we've always known it.
So what's the first biggest impact of AI overviews in ChatGPT on what we'll call, and hang on, let's back it up really fast. Sorry. So when you say traditional search, tell us what that means. So we just have a kind of a baseline meaning for everybody.
Yeah, traditional search meaning Google search, Bing search, majority obviously has been owned by Google. Google's been the dominant search engine for years now. But as ChatGPT grows and as some of these other AI platforms grow, more and more users are turning their search to those platforms versus just traditional Google.
Yeah, and one thing I always talk about on this one is, on traditional search, the result is a list of links historically, right? Whether it's a paid link, the map has links in it, right? If we're going down the Google search, and then links to websites. And what I always emphasize is kind of that AI search is more of that answer-based search result, right? Where they're going to list you out and give you information. And it has a more of a Q&A flavor to it as opposed to a punchy keyword search, right? So I would just kind of maybe toss that out there too as we think about how they're kind of evolving, right? We backed it up to say AI search versus traditional search. Give us the biggest impact or some of the biggest impacts that we're seeing even called in the last 2 years.
Yeah, Aaron, really one of the biggest impacts that we've seen is a drop in click-through rates. And, what that means is, traditionally when you would ask a question related to whether it be, relating to our client's roofing or plumbing or anything of that nature, you used to have to click on a link and find a blog that would answer the question. A lot of historical traditional SEO has kind of been centered around the idea of getting traffic from those types of links and those types of content. But now with AI overviews in Google, it's just going to give you the answer right on the Google search engine results page without having to click on that link. So those clicks from those blogs and from that informational content aren't coming. So traffic numbers overall seem to be declining each year.
Yeah, and I think that's been hitting. I've read that Wikipedia was hit really hard. Traditional publishers have been hit really hard, right? Something where you might have to go to a Wikipedia page and comb through. It just tells you what year Josh Allen was drafted, or it just tells you whatever you're looking or reading about, right? Just tells you right there in the answer, right? How can we work with our clients, and how can we, what are some strategies or some things that people can take away to sort of, how do we get in there, right? How do we get into the AI overview? How do we get into the AI summary, right? Because that sounds like the big visibility opportunity here.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a number of ways to do that. First and foremost, what you have to do is make your content direct and clear, with a straight answer for questions that have those search volumes, for the questions that people are asking. So looking at, what trends what questions are people asking related to your industry? How can I directly answer that question within my content that, Google can pick it up and give, what signals can I send to give Google that I have the best answer for that question to get in that AI overview spot?
Yep.
And then, coming out of that, as you grow those AI overview spots, that grows your website's authority to outrank competitors for keywords that might drive business and drive, leads for you, which is obviously the end goal.
Thanks, Kent. That was great information on that one. Ray, I want to bring you in really fast, right? You're just an expert on branding in general, and we're talking AI summaries and overviews. And I was just wondering if you had any quick comments or thoughts on, how impactful it is for your brand if you're kind of consistently showing up in those AI summaries and those ChatGPT answers.
Yeah, before we get to that, Kent, can I ask you a question? Are the AI engines sorting their are they citing their sources? I know they were at some point. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. What's the update on that?
Yeah, so both in the AI overviews from Gemini and Google, as well as ChatGPT, if you're getting your website into those spots, there will be links to your content that users can then click on and either fill out a form or just learn more about you.
So I guess for us, most of our clients' work is done on transactional. They're not trying to get information on how to put a roof on a building. They're trying to get a roofer to put it on the building. So it seems like even though click-through rates may be down, there's still a really strong reason why the client should invest in that. Obviously, I know
Yeah,
the answer to that question before I asked it, but I know a lot of people think that AI is going to eliminate, Google. I think we were told that a year and a half ago, and our podcast has been consistent that don't count Google out. Now Gemini is number one, and
Yeah.
it's not going to change. And if it does, there are going to be two or three. There's going to be two or three that make it. But yeah, to the question of branding. Um, we can look at the companies that are doing really well today that don't have a great web presence or don't have a great brand. We have a client, all of our client stories are nameless, but we have a client that I see every day. I see them every day. I see their trucks on the road, and the brand is lost. You can't even see the logo on the truck. It's sort of clear. It's hard to see. So I see their trucks, 5 times a day, as so do commercial property facility managers see them 5 times a day. But I only know it's them because I know the company. So don't forget the power of the brand when it comes to something as small as a truck. Well, let's get to the internet. Because if you didn't think your website was important in 1995, you've proven that really to be incorrect. If you didn't think the content on your website in 1995 wasn't important, that's incorrect. So if you think that AI is not important, you're missing the same trends that you missed in the early 90s. And so we look at websites as a dynamic tool to enhance your brand and maximize your results. No marketing approach is unilateral. And if you're looking at your marketing approaches, whether it's a sales approach, I'm going to use cold calling or I'm going to go to events, I'm going to use AltaVista, we're going to do some email, we're going to do unilateral approach to get these clients. That's the wrong way to look at it. We've got to look at a multi-touch approach that's going to take the sales work, the marketing work, the ads that we're doing, ties it all together with the internet, the content, and then you're going to have a nice client that comes into your basket. We had a client that got a opportunity from one of the largest restaurant chains in America, and it was an inbound. And they want to know where it came from. And we could argue that it was from the content team, and it may have been from our content team, which is great, but I do think it's a collection of everything that went into that relationship, whether it be maybe they received an email, maybe they saw their trucks on the street, and maybe they saw the content that AltaVista posted for them. But let's not be in denial about the value of the brand and how many times your brand is going to be shown to that buyer and what's the reception of that brand. And so again, yeah, it's critically important. And if you're not sourcing in search organically, I think you're missing a huge opportunity, and paid
Yeah.
too. We're not here to talk about paid, but any time you can get to put your brand in front of your future customers and your prospects, it's going to pay you dividends in the long term, not tomorrow, in the long term.
Yeah. And I even start to think too, just as we talk, obviously from a macro, everything does work together, of course. I just even think in this really small instance where we talk about credibility building and influencing and all those other sort of things, if I go to Google and I ask a question and your company is the answer to that question, I just sort of go, hey, well, there's one in the credibility column, right? There's one in the trust column for me, right? Oh, that must be a legit company. Now, granted, you start peeling the onion back sometimes and seeing some of these sources and links and going and checking them out. And that may not always be the case, but I just think from a brand and an influencing standpoint, really, if you're appearing very highly in search and kind of in the AI side of things, um, it's super important. Ken,
Let me interject real quick
yeah,
because I
go.
think, we don't put enough emphasis on brand. As a company, when we talk to our customers, we've got an email product that works really well and our customers love it. They're getting great opportunities with great clients, but how many prospects are you actually touching that you're not getting an opportunity from that you might get an opportunity from the next month? Now, if we stop touching them, that will be ineffective. It will not work, right? Simple. You're going to stop touching them with your brand. So you're obviously not going to get any more opportunities, right? Simple. So why don't we put the emphasis on brand? Why aren't we looking at these as opportunities, not threats to our business, right? Everybody that, well, AI is going to change our business. Well, what's the opportunity within AI? And I think it's our job to uncover that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, one of the opportunities there is you're kind of at like the beginning of a new channel for how people are looking, researching, interacting, right? I think that's the big one in some capacity, right? It's definitely altering a little bit of the landscape. Kent, let me ask a question on that front, right? So, like, what should a contractor be doing if they want to make sure that they are positioning their brand within the AI, within the content? Like, what are some things they can be doing?
Yeah, no, great question. I mean, first and foremost, make sure that your website clearly lists out all of the services that you do or are capable and willing to do. You'd be surprised how many businesses or websites that we work with that, kind of leave out some things that they're willing to do or will do. And that basically sets you up from, not being able to be found for those things with people with those needs essentially. But beyond that, really just strong reviews are critically important. I know from a branding perspective as well, those are important, but with AI strongly values reviews across multiple platforms such as Google, Yelp, Better Business Bureau. And then directory listings outside of, your website. Where else online is your business listed? Are you in all of the major directories? Are you, on social media? Are you, doing all of these things in other parts of the internet that, basically all come back to Google and say, this is a, you know, trustworthy business that has experience, has expertise. All of those signals really play into getting those spots versus competitors that maybe aren't doing those things.
Yeah, and I think again, I think everything we're talking about here all starts to tie into a cohesive brand, right? So like a consistent, solid presence on social media, a consistent, solid presence across the internet, being members of the applicable right associations and having the right information out there, right? Having a positive online reputation, right? I think all of those things are brand plays. And it's just sort of like, hey, your overall brand presence and persona online also really tie into what we're talking about on the AI search side.
One of the things that I think Kent said that I think may have gotten glossed over a little bit is reviews. The resi contractor, they understand how important and critical reviews are. The commercial contractor doesn't see it as clearly, but it's equally as important, and it's probably 10 times as hard, right, on the commercial side. But if you can master online reviews on the commercial side, whether you're a janitorial contractor, whether you're a general contractor, whether you're a plumber or a painter, if you can master reviews, you're going to win. End of story. So stop telling us that it's not important because we're telling you it is important, and that in 20 years, when I don't know, we're Gen Z, what's next? I don't even know what's next. They're not even going to consider calling you. It's like a joke. There's going to be a chip in their head, and they're going to just, AI is going to read your reviews and tell them who to call, or just beam me an electrician, right? Whatever it
Yeah.
might be. And guys, I'm very serious about this. I'm 56 years old. I started my company in 1994 without email, and now look at the reliance on email. So just don't let reviews gloss over. and don't think, oh, I can't get them. They are harder to get. AltaVista, I don't know how many reviews we have. It's like 490 some, maybe. Is that right, Kent?
Yeah, across all platforms. I think Google's
Yeah.
around 300.
So we have 300 plus Google reviews, and probably 295 of them are 5 star. And we worked hard to get those. We didn't just send a link and somebody clicked it. I mean, we've got contests internally where people are asking their clients to give us a review. It's not as easy as it is on the residential contractor, where you give the residential contractor might give an incentive. I'll give you $100 off your next service call, or they give you something for the review. We've got to let our commercial clients know that reviews are important, and we're going to have to work a little harder for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, an interesting one that I had anecdotally with a customer who has large service business where they touch a lot of people frequently, doing routine maintenance. They were like, well, why would I ask them for a review every time I go to their building? And I go, well, don't you want to know how you did? Right? At a bare minimum, like you don't even have to necessarily, like, I'm not even saying, yeah, the review would be great, but they're like, well, why? And I'm like, well, because if you're there once a quarter or once a month, like if you go to the barber, every time I leave my barber shop, I pay my thing and I immediately get a text. How was your visit today?
Right.
Right. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, maybe you apply that same sort of thing. You can identify different troubleshooting spots and then also grow those reviews over time too. Right. So I think there is, whether it's they're not important or we don't want to know, a head in the sand type approach, I think a shift in mentality generally amongst the commercial industrial contracting space is certainly a necessary shift. Right. So Kent, you and your team have had a lot of experience with reviews and trying to help generate them for customers, and kind of, we work with a lot of commercial contractors. What's your general experience like, kind of maybe from a boots on the ground perspective in terms of, getting reviews if you're a commercial contractor?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. It's a lot easier than people think. And, even though some commercial contractors have been hesitant to start, once they start, they see the value in it. They've seen, tangible results, and they've been super successful as a result. So, definitely worth trying. And, they've seen tangible results in terms of their total visibility and their total, conversions and web form submissions coming in as a result as well. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And, you guys see a willingness by the commercial contractor, right? The customers, right? So we'll say property manager, facility manager, whoever it is. You guys see that, because I think there's this common fear. Oh, a facility manager is not going to write me a review, right? But I think that we've seen the opposite is true, where if people are asking happy customers, that it generally is pretty effective.
yeah, and I think an important note there too is those roles are going to continue to get filled by younger generations. And younger folks are going to be more willing to leave reviews because they're used to getting those types of requests. And that's something that's, commonly overlooked, I think.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Kind of that buyer demographic sort of shifting, not only from how they might look for services and interact, but also kind of their willingness to fulfill sort of the 360 on the other side. That's a really great point, right?
Something that you said, Aaron, I think is really, really insightful, is embracing the review. A lot of people have this fear of, we're going to open up a review process where we're going to email every single client about the experience. And I understand that. I do understand that, because you want to have some sort of control over it. But if you did just embrace it, is how did we do? And when you have a client that maybe is a really good client who sends in a not so great review, hey, I use you guys all the time, this was not a great experience. But then you're able to pick up the phone and call that client, because the commercial client's not looking for a discount. They're not looking for you to, give them something for free because Joey didn't put the shingles on in the right timeline. You just give them a call and say, hey, I'm really sorry this happened. And then maybe they modify the review. And then I also would say that you can go to your best customers and ask for that review directly and say, hey, could you review us on these platforms? And I think most good customers, there are some that are restricted by their corporates that they're not allowed to do it, but a lot aren't. And so just committing to the review and committing to what the review says. And if it's a negative, you got your answer. I'd much rather have a client tell me in a review, hey, your team's great, but they dropped the ball on this, and let's solve that problem before it gets too big to where they want to cancel a service or something. So I think what Aaron says is important. Embrace that feedback, whether positive or negative.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. And I have an interesting note here too, right, from Kent from kind of the show notes, guys, which was like, if AI does not recognize your credibility, you may be overlooked. And I think one thing that I see in all my AI type results are, especially on ChatGPT, are, this company has 100 five-star reviews, right? I think those reviews, and again, it's not necessarily the perspective of a person. You got to remember it is still a machine analyzing things, right? But I think that that was an interesting note that we made here about, like, if AI doesn't recognize you as being credible, they might just run right past you. Um, you know,
Yeah.
that's, I think, a great point that you made, Ken.
Yeah, appreciate that. I mean, realistically, what it comes down to is your website should be able to clearly explain what you do, who you serve, where you serve, and why you're qualified to do the job within seconds. So AI is going to read structure and clarity the same way your customers do. If somebody clicks on your website and they can't figure out exactly what you do, what services you provide, they're going to leave and find a different website. AI is kind of the same way, where if you're not structured correctly the way that it wants, it's going to skip right past you and move on to the next.
Yeah, just to that point, and I think this speaks to brand and sort of a broader perspective. We had a client who we just rebuilt their website, and I know the client pretty well. So I was very candid with him, and I said, look, any marketing we're tying right now to this antiquated website, we're sort of wasting your money. And we finished his website, he's ecstatic, and he's starting to see things come in because he's marketing to some Fortune 500 companies. And so if you get to that website, it doesn't look right. It doesn't look professional. If they're not ranking within, maybe they use ChatGPT, maybe they use Gemini, maybe they use Anthropic or Grok, whatever they use. And then if there's a consistency across each channel, oh, who's the best contractor marketing company in the country? And then they get a result for in Gemini that Altus is ranked in the top 5, and then on Grok or ChatGPT, we're on the top 5. And then they go to our website, and that website resonates with the client. We've done our job. And I would equate, like, when I go back to the 90s, and I know a lot of our clients are in my age bracket, the percentage of clients that I spoke to in the 90s was at 98%. So let me think about that. 98% of my clients I was able to get on the phone and talk to and influence them to do more business with my electrical company. What's your percentage look like today? It's nowhere near 98%. And so you embraced email, you embraced digital forms, digital RFPs, you embraced the internet, you're going to embrace AI. And what it exactly looks like in 3 years, I don't think we're contending that we have a visual of exactly what it looks like. But do we know it's going to be a factor? 100%. And we know that people are going to embrace it. Yes, they're going to embrace it. And if you're a slate roofer and somebody in Boston, Massachusetts says, they ask ChatGPT, how do you put a slate roof on a home? And your content's in there, the chances are you're going to be considered for that job. I know it's very niche, but I wanted to pick a very niche example. If you're a commercial painter and you're one of the top commercial painters, and ChatGPT backs up that you're one of the best commercial painters, that's going to be really good for you, because whether the prospect's using Gemini or they're using Google search or they're using ChatGPT, it's a consistency that's there. And then your website backs up. If your website then is terrible, well, then we have a problem. And but if your website then backs it up and they resonate with it, and then again, maybe they see your truck on the street the next day. It's a collaborative effort of marketing tools to drive successful brand growth. And you're not going to hit it today out of the park, right? You're not going to see it today. Oh, my investment in SEO or AI search is going to pay me back today. But we know over time it's going to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I always say, Ray, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, and Ken, I hope you do too, is like just name the last time you did business with someone without looking at their website first.
Yeah, never,
Never. Right
Yeah.
today,
never.
never. Because it's, hey Siri, open the website for so and so. It's so easy and so fast and so quick. Whether it's just even like a restaurant that you're considering for lunch in a town, you're going to look at the menu. If it's a contractor, if it's I mean, it's just people are going to look at your website before they do business with you. So I just even take it to a level of just that simple of a question, right? Does this increase the likelihood of them wanting to do business with you, or does it decrease? Right. Um,
Well, and
Ray, you had
one other thing, you make me laugh actually because it's like the thing when we did one of our sales trainings. It's like, does this increase closing ratios or does it decrease closing ratios?
yeah,
That's what I
correct.
was thinking, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
I have a great website and it's interactive and dynamic and people love it. Does that increase closing ratios
Yeah.
or decrease closing ratios? We know the answer.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a great web presence. I'm recognized as the best janitorial company in my region on ChatGPT, Grok, and Gemini, and Google search. Does that increase closing ratios or decrease closing ratios? We all know the answer. I'm proving a point here.
Yeah.
The other thing that I
Yeah.
wanted to say though before that is don't get behind the curve here. Like if you wanted to be ranked for the best plumber in 1999 in Washington, D.C., that would have been a tough task, but you could have accomplished it, right? But now you're competing with Angie, you're competing with Roto-Rooter, any other aggregator, lead aggregator, the biggest national players. Don't get behind on AI because you will be behind. It's no different than SEO. If you don't have a consistent approach to this, you're going to get behind. And I always talked about our clients, like when clients want to remove a service from their account, I always say remove what you don't see value in. But if it's something that I believe you're making a mistake in, I will tell you you're making a mistake. I told a client they were taking reviews off, and I go, honestly, you should just fire us because you're not listening. Reviews are critically important to your success. And I'm going to tell you that if you're taking these things off of your account, you're making a huge mistake. You need to invest in these search tools because it's not getting less interaction. It's only getting more interaction.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I don't have the number to back that up, Ray, for the ChatGPT, but I do know that Google processes about 8.5 to 9 billion searches a day in the United States, I believe is the number. So the idea of how this is all shifting and changing and this, like people don't use it. I just think that that's just a stat that you back out of, like to your comment of, listen, this train is not completely gone yet. Embrace it, adopt it, listen to, like, you know what I mean? It's, there's still opportunity here.
Yeah, and look, I'll also be very clear. We've been steadfast at AltaVista that if you count Google out, you're making a huge mistake. And I said that on an earlier podcast, and even I think some of our people, when I said it, were like, "This old dude's not connected because ChatGPT rocks." And now Gemini's ranked number one, and ChatGPT's got a code red. I didn't know what a code red was. Like I thought that was like military action, but like it's a code red. Like we've got to put all hands on deck to get back our share. What I would also concur is that yes, Google will lose search volume. There will be winners other than Google. Google's been the 98% winner for 25 years. That's going to change. Now, is it going to be ChatGPT, Perplexity, Anthropic, Grok, Google? We don't know that, right? But you can say that, Gemini and Google will be in the mix. ChatGPT on the residential consumer side will absolutely be in the mix. A couple of these may not make it. But again, everything we're doing to invest in your brand is going to go across each engine. And so it's not like you have to have a different strategy for each AI engine.
Yeah, and that's a really good point too, right? What I always say is if you go to Chat GPT and you ask it, who are the best commercial roofers in Baltimore, right, where we're located, it literally just says searching the web across the top.
Hey, it's all it's
Right.
doing.
It's looking at the
Right.
internet, guys. Like that's where they're looking.
That's
They're looking
right.
to see what the general internet answers. kind of getting back to the code red on the ChatGPT or wherever you were, right? Like, I mean, kind of a little bit of an offshoot subject here, but one of the things that they've come out with recently, headline was, we're going to start testing ads, right? And I think we mentioned that many episodes ago. Kent and I were chatting before this, and he mentioned that, hey, there's some potential early beta testing from Google of testing ads within the AI overviews, right? So there are going to be strategies to make sure you're positioned in these places no matter what. But, just something as you mentioned, like, hey, they're on this code red mode. I would think that they've been anti-ad a really long time at OpenAI, and now they're like we're going to start beta testing that for like the free. And
Yeah.
it's really interesting kind of, oh, wow.
But so they were testing ads, and we know that for a fact. And again, we've been steadfast saying that there's going to be an ad model. There's also a massive degradation in paid subscriptions right now to OpenAI. And they're losing, I don't know the percentages, but they've lost a lot of subscribers. And if Google wins the race or is in the top three and is willing to give it away for free, or put a robust ad model behind it, I'm going to argue who's going to pay for it. And I don't think they're going to. But the code red was about getting back to the core functionality of OpenAI and ChatGPT. And I think they actually paused a little bit more on the ad side because they were putting too much resources into it. So if you really dig deeper into there will be an ad model for sure. There's no doubt in my mind, but it's not here now. It's so premature.
Yep.
We're looking into it. Our ads team's looking into it as we speak. It's our job to stay ahead of these trends. And I think we've done a pretty good job so far. And I think the clients that have trusted us have seen a significant traction with SEO and inbound forms from AI engines. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, I can jump in there. Really, I know we've talked a lot about, declining click-through rates, declining traffic, but really the clients that we've seen invest with us with the SEO have seen increases in their organic form submissions year over year. They're getting form submissions from ChatGPT, where people are searching things like Aaron mentioned, best commercial roofer in Baltimore or best commercial roofer wherever they're located. And then they're the ones that pop up, and ChatGPT will give them a link directly to their website. Their website looks professional, and they're getting a form submission for their business. So, really seeing a lot of success over the last 2 years based on the adjustments that we have been able to make for our clients, which has been awesome.
Yeah. And the adjustment there is the big thing too, right? Because everything is changing so rapidly. And like even a little adjustment that I know that the team has made, and I know this because I was working with them on a presentation I was giving, just making sure that we're using like FAQs on our blog posts, right? Making sure that we're doing all these little things that, the large language models, like the machine readable information and answers, right? And doing all these little adjustments behind the scenes to try to position our customers there. One of the SEO softwares that we use has started to tell us more about AI visibility and AI cited pages. And so like we're actively looking at all of this. And, Kent and his team have done a great job of consistently making all these little changes along the way to try to position our clients to be in the best spot. And it's such a dynamic moving space. Ken, I hate to put you on the spot. Do you have anything else you're working on? Anything else you guys have been trying, testing? What does that look like?
Yeah, realistically, we put in a ton of stuff in 2025, and we're looking for the next big thing in 2026 to continue to, keep rolling and keep, bringing improvements to our clients' websites. Really, schema markup. There's a ton of different versions of markup, which basically will help Google understand the content on your website, what your business is all about. That was our sort of big initiative in 2025, and we got that, done, and it's really helped, a number of our clients really get in those top spots and get in those AI overview spots rather quickly. But really, this year, in terms of authority across the web, backlinking and improving our process with that is a big goal for this year. So we're always looking at ways that we can improve both traditional search engine results, build the authority, which in turn will help us, get in those AI spots for our clients moving forward. So
cool. Ray, you got any, one of the questions we had, and I guess I'm not going to ask her anymore, was, is SEO dead because of AI? I think we know the answer to that one.
Yeah, we've
At
gotten
this
that
point,
one
I hope,
before.
I
Yeah.
hope the answer to that one's pretty obvious at this, kind of at this
Yeah.
point, right?
One of the things that I've stressed to clients is that, you've got transactional search and you've got informational search, right? I want an answer. Okay. That's what AI is perfect for. It's streamlined our ability to get the answer so quickly. Now, is it always right? No. And, for those who used to read Wikipedia pages, I've seen plenty of ChatGPT answers that were
Yeah.
Wikipedia pages just summarized.
Yep.
And it seems all more authentic when this AI engine's telling you the answer. But it's still your job to make sure that you're getting the right answer. So um, just understand it's the early innings. To Aaron's point, it's the internet, right? It's never going to be um, this large language model that has all the answers if they didn't steal the information from the internet. Because where did they get all these models? Where did all this information come from? So did they steal information on the internet? Yes, they did. It's a travesty that it happened. The administration has said we don't want to stymie innovation. Um, but when it comes to transactional, I need a new commercial roof on my building. If you're ranked as an expert and or how it gets done, that's only going to help you. So don't look at it as a negative because I think most people that are looking for our client services are looking for transactional type services, right? It's not, hey, I just want to learn about TPO roofing or slate roofing. They need a roof. So it really is not a negative, I think. I think for our clients that listen to the show, it's really important that our clients embrace what we're seeing success in right now. We're sometimes told, well, you don't mind, spending more money on our behalf. We want to spend money on your behalf because it's working. And Kent's Group has the lowest churn in our entire company. Kent's Group is a representation of 10% of AltaVista sales. That group didn't exist 4 years ago. So it's obviously working. For those of you who aren't convinced that this is important, I'm sure we've all heard of Adobe. Adobe might be one of the biggest companies that is affected by ChatGPT or Nano Banana. Again, this is a company that they're questioning their software model. Why did they go out and buy the biggest SEO platform in the world? Why did they buy it? Because they know that's where there's going to be money to be made there. And so while they might lose money on Photoshop, right? Because you can use Nano Banana now. Sorry, your clients, don't try to use it yourself, but it is a pretty cool tool. I gave away the keys to the castle there. I apologize. But again, that's our job to figure out what tools are out there, what can we do efficiently. And again, if Adobe's buying up an SEO platform, then obviously it's going to be serious.
Yeah, no doubt about it, right?
No doubt about it.
Yeah. I think our big takeaway point here was like whether it's how we're looking at AI search as a whole, traditional search, branding, website, it is like an entire part that comes together. One thing that I always say is we can go out and get all the SEO right and we bring them to the website. The website has to then be a tool built to convert the traffic, the visitor. It has to be compelling, right? I also talk about it on the other side where, hey, we could build you the best website in the world. If you're not doing any SEO or doing anything digitally to get traffic to the site, you created a billboard and you put it in an airplane hangar that no one's ever going to see, right? So there's two prongs to how these things kind of fall together. You know, Ken, any quick closing comments on that part, right? Just sort of how this all kind of ties in as one.
Yeah, I mean, to the question of is SEO dead, I would say the exact opposite. I would say it's more important now than ever. I think, really if you're not taking advantage of attacking some of these you know, strategies that allow you to get in those spots, you're going to fall behind the people that are. So, it's a very, big opportunity. I would say it's a very big time and a very big, chance for companies to invest now. And, down the line, you'll be happier the sooner you do it. So.
Cool. Ray, any closing thoughts, comments, last questions for me? Kent, anybody?
No, I think it was great, Ken. Thanks for coming on today. I really appreciate it. I think for our clients, just understanding like where AltaVista stands. Like I ran an electrical contracting business for 14 years. And if my client needed to replace their lights in their parking lot, I told them you need to replace your lights. It wasn't self-serving to me. I could have changed the ballast and the lamps and maybe rewired a few heads, but it made more sense to replace. It was more economically feasible to the client. If I thought it was more economically feasible to do a whole list of repairs, that's what we recommended. That served us well. We never lost any clients. That's our approach at AltaVista. We're not here to sell you things. We're here to make your business better. And we're going to tell you that this is a longer term strategy, but we've got case studies that show that this works and that investing in your brand is critically important. One of my favorite stories is the new client we just brought on who we just told your website is substandard and you cannot market to this site. And he never questioned it. And he said, go build me a new site. And also like site building is not the best piece of our business. We only do it for our clients and we do it as a service to make sure that you can be, your brand is portrayed in a certain way and that it's making sense the way we're driving traffic. So again, we are here to just help. We're here to show you what's working. And this is one that I think is just a no-brainer. And if you're in the business for the long term, and every one of our clients is, start looking at this today.
Cool. Yeah. So Ray, thanks for the closing thoughts there. Kent, thanks for jumping on. I'm sure we'll have you back on a future episode to talk more SEO and AI search and how that all is coming together. Thank you everybody for listening to this episode of the AltaVista Angle.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.